The Stranger, Scandent Season, Year 1. Or so it should have been.
Well, that turned out better than expected. I guess you've solved the problem, one way or another, so our village can return to its peaceful and harmonious existence. Thank you, wayfaring strangers. Good luck on whatever distant lands you set foot on, next.
The stranger blushed luminescently as she turned to try to figure out where the voice was coming from. As her eyes adjusted to the light, hadn't the sun been setting just a few moments before? She could make out a figure that was definitely the mayor, just had to be. He was a little older than most, like all mayors should be, or at least he was wearing a fake mustache that looked suitably venerable and worthy of respect. He was short and hunched over, like the kind of wise old mayor that might have once been a famous adventurer in their youth, even though it was obvious he was just crouched close to the ground. His cape was a brilliant red, and his words were polite, but firm. The stranger grit her teeth and tried to shake the musiness from her head.
Actually, I kind of was thinking I'd explore this mysterious hole a bit further. I mean, how often is it you see something like this? I don't really consider myself much of an adventurer, yet, but this seems about as interesting as anything further afield. Thank you for your concern, though. Come on, guys.
Forcing a cheerfulness she suddenly found herself lacking, the stranger stretched, waved, and took a step towards the scar in the earth. But neither Boleslava nor Binky moved with her, and the near silence of the whisper from the mayor was louder than a scream.
I really wouldn't, if I were you. You won't find anything of interest, there. It's a hole, full of dirt and mud and worms. No offense, serpent.
Isilthwest, who had been silent mere moments before, sprang to life as if she were a puppet whose strings had been seized.
None taken. And I also think that you should stay away from that hole. I cannot for the life of me remember why I was digging it, but certainly it'd be pointless for us to investigate it further when so much adventure and fun lies ahead.
At some point, the serpent had begun to coil around the precipice, her vast tail blocking off entrance to the chasm, at least metaphorically, as the stranger, with some effort and a lot of wheezing, hoisted herself over it.
Thank both of you for your concern. But trust me when I say I'll just be a minute if it's boring. Besides, don't you know?
Her teeth were stained with tobacco as she smiled in a facsimile of fearlessness.
The more you tell someone not to look at something, the more curious they get. Alley-oop.
Lowering herself into the pit, the stranger was surprised to find the chasm below her not spaceless, but instead surrounded by neatly hewn stone stairwells, curving downwards as if part of some inverse lighthouse. Looking up to make sure none could see her, she frowned and bit her lip, then began to walk carefully downwards, lighter in hand. The nervous click could be heard every other step she took. And it wasn't more than 15 such steps that she had to shake her head and check her vision, for the mysterious, and quite handsome, polite, good-natured, and most of all timely personage from before had returned, somehow eluding her to stand right in front of her. He was smiling from under his hood, but the smile was forced and exasperated.
Look! You've done very well. We're all very proud of you, least of all me. But you're not proving anything to anyone, and trust me when I tell you, absolutely no good thing will come of this. It's frustrating, but you're pushing up against the boundaries of something that you shouldn't be fiddling with. I can't explain further, but you'll have to trust me, as one adventurer to another. Okay.
He held out a delicate, beautiful hand, still smiling. She returned his smile as she pushed his hand away, and kept walking. Despite not glancing behind herself, she could all but feel him disappearing from her field of vision. Above her, the sky went out entirely, not obscured by any darkening of the sun or distancing of the light, it simply blanked from existence, her companions, the serpent, the mayor, and everything else with it. Perhaps that wasn't true entirely. Set in the earthen walls around her, tiny caches of space large enough for statues to stand, Binky and Boleslava stood on separate pedestals, eyes watching her emotionlessly as she passed. And it didn't matter how many steps she took. They continued to stand in judgment of her, even as she made no sign of progress.
You should turn back. Only sad things wait up ahead, and you aren't strong enough to face them. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't keep you safe from them. They're so very frightening, and I have such tiny arms.
The chorus of Boleslavas whispered quietly, their mouths moving in unison. The stranger broke into a run, trying to avoid facing any of the niches in the wall as a somber set of voices rang around her, from both above and below.
Don't you understand how bad this is? Binky isn't scared of much, but Binky is scared for you. Right now. Please don't throw away your life. After being fished out from the water, it'd be so sad if you had to.
But whatever the Binkies said, it vanished as the stranger reached a door near the bottom of the stairs, or at least where the stairs stopped, and the only other exit was the yawning abyss below. Once locked, but now half ruined from rust and disuse, the door caved from several cracks of her shoulder against it, and the stranger threw herself over the threshold as the door swung open. Several more doors hung in the air around her, though curiously enough they all looked similar to the door she had just seen. Several twisted and pulsed shades of blue as she stared at them, so much so that it began to hurt to look at them, and she found she had to look away. When her vision cleared, a young man was standing before her. He had a smile that seemed to teeter between concern, empathy, and something else, light hair that seemed almost translucent cyan, and a daring red cape.
Turn back. I'm really telling you this for your own good. Please, turn back. Neither of us wants things to be unpleasant, and look around you. This is a pretty unpleasant place, isn't it?
Nodding weakly, she fiddled with her tie, trying to smile in return. Somehow the gesture just couldn't quite reach her face.
Yeah, ahaha. Pretty scary, really. But see, I've been shaking this terribly weird feeling of wrongness since I woke up. And somehow, I feel like whatever it is, running away it'd just be worse. Trust me, I'm pretty good at running away from stuff. So you won't turn back, then?
He asked, not responding to her attempts at humor. The stranger slowly shook her head.
No. I've got to keep going. If it's possible, I'll come back. Really, I will. But my gut is telling me that there's something important ahead, and...
Her shrug was met by pleasant laughter, and a warm smile from the man in front of her, who threw his arms up in resignation. But good-natured resignation all the same.
Well, it's no concern of mine. Do be careful, though. I imagine it'll be 3 years before it really sinks in for you, but trust me when I say that you're only hurting yourself. I really did hope that this would be enough to keep you busy, but I suppose I've got to work on my world building. It wasn't really very believable, was it?
Shooting her a sideways smile, he adroitly stepped to the side and leaned casually against one of the floating doors, careless of the abyss to either side of the stone path they stood upon.
Do as you like. I warned you, you listened, such is the way these things go. For what it was worth, I had fun. It seemed like you were having fun, too. Were you, out of question? Just for the record. Yeah. I really was.
She responded melancholically, whatever smile she had tried to wear completely eroded in the face of his question. He continued to smile, however, looking pleased.
Good to hear. Then I guess I'll see you again, soon enough. Be careful.
And with a flash of light as electric blue as the sky, he disappeared entirely, and so did the ground beneath her. She fell, but oddly the sensation wasn't frightening. There was no sound around her, no whistling of the wind or rushing forward of the ground, just a feeling of falling through space with no beginning or end. Fragments of conversations she had had before reached the stranger's ears. Not simply conversations she had had with Binky or Boleslava, but conversations from before. They drifted in and out of focus, straining her mind as she tried to recollect them, but recollect them she did.
So, I know that some of you are probably a little concerned about this project. We've had concerns from those involved that their children are going to be sent forward into whatever world is on the other side with no proof they can survive, let alone even breathe the air unaided. Due to lack of time, we've decided to send a few volunteers in, first. We've taken the liberty of entering your names ahead of time.
Ahead of her, the comforting darkness began to recede and take form, twisting into shapes that resembled buildings, plants, and creatures, all lifelike, but essentially as featureless as clay. All moved to face her as she fell, but said nothing, nor showed any signs of life.
Can you believe they entered my name in this crap without asking? I mean, sure I wouldn't have minded winning, but it's the principle of the thing. Well, and honestly, I would have rather entered someone else. Maybe a bit younger. I won, actually.
Time began to erode the features of the featureless models around her, exposing lovingly modeled organs and bone, each sculpted with a different palette. Some looked almost as real as to be alive, but when she tried to touch one, unbidden, it drifted away and unraveled upon itself, so many strips of pigmented light.
Well, we've got some good news and bad news. Complex D is ruined. But in the good news, even though you lost our little inter-company pool, the kid who won our little extra company thing is Gristle for the yards, now. Which means there's no one else alive near Complex E, and if you can get there, well, you're luckier than I am. If you can get there before it completely loses power, chances are there won't be anyone to even care if you use it.
Laughter echoed around her and faded away just as quickly, laughter that changed into dry sobbing moments after it had begun. And it was as that laughter died that the ground began to form far below her, constructing itself out of blocks and shapes until the image of a prairie near the sea began to take form, tremendous blooms of strange plants taking shape amongst the vanishing dark. "I'm going to die," was the last thing she remembered, as she crashed into something soft and slightly mushy. Despite the distance of her fall, or the distance she felt she had fallen, whatever it was offered a gentle form of resistance, and she slid off of it onto the pleasantly cool stepland around her, and immediately identified what was in front of her. A vast serpent, discolored where its flesh had been worn down by countless rains and days under the deep soil, lay coiled upon itself, breathing shallowly. Wounds scored its flesh, unnaturally soft and bruised, and those bruises leaked from oily sores as the great serpent turned sightless eyes towards the stranger.
"Who is it? Who is there? I have grown old, and infirm." "Is Silthwist? It's me. We met just a few hours before, and we were going to go on adventures together. You had promised not to dig up the earth. Aha, you can't be dying now. Aha, ha ha. Ha."
The stranger began to laugh nervously, hating herself for laughing when she wanted to cry. Silthwist did not respond to the laughter, however, merely further deflating from where she had feebly tried to assume a defensive stance, eyes shuddering.
"Your voice sounds familiar, but I cannot place it at all. If we met, it was for a moment in what has been too long of a life. Or perhaps a dream."
And after several deep and ragged breaths,
"I am dying. That is the fact of it. But my life, I do not think it was in vain."
Lips curled in a serpentine smile, Silthwist shook her head from side to side, the graying feathers that covered her eyes falling to the ground in gentle tufts.
"You see, I found it, what my old friend was looking for. And with that, perhaps there will be an end to future suffering. If that is the case, I can rest, for a while, and not worry about the future."
The stranger placed the palm of one hand up against the scales of Silthwist's flesh, and felt the serpent's breathing slow, though her eyes jolted open in a flash of gold and a surprised roar that shook the ground beneath the two of them, not in anger, or fear, but in recognition.
"I know you. I know you. You should not be here. You have doomed us, you may have doomed us, I do not know, I do not know."
Her voice faltering between sorrow and hope, the serpent thrashed weakly against the ground, then spoke quietly, lowering her great forehead to where the stranger stood.
"Walk the beach near this place. That is all I can say for certain. But know that even if you have changed nothing, you have doomed yourself. And know that also, I would not have minded."
But whatever it was that the great serpent would not have minded, she gave one last shuddering breath, and fell silent, decay's overpowering scent soon rising from her corpse. The stranger remained silent as well for some time, then finally pulled her hand away, and strode towards the beach. Strong rain had kept any shells or glass from the ground. Whatever had been present had been eroded into fine grains that cracked beneath her feet. Though the tide was out, it had clearly only been days or hours before that the tide had ruled the coastline, vast depressions where the water had once held sway still expanding in every direction in front of her. And it was luck, perhaps, that the pink blob stuck in the sand and flailing tiny feet helplessly had not been swept out to sea entirely. Rushing through the sand so quickly she almost tripped over her own feet, the stranger called out excitedly towards the only living thing visible against an empty and receding sea.
Boleslava! Wait up, just wait a second. I'll get you out of there, little buddy.
It didn't take a heroic effort to pry Boleslava loose, and the relief on the stranger's face was evident from the warmth of her wrinkled smile. That Boleslava returned, though confused.
Hi. Thanks for that, I was really scared the tide'd roll back in.
Boleslava half wriggled / half shuddered, and it was adorable.
But, do I know you?
Time passed as the two walked along the beach. The stranger mostly silent, and Boleslava walking aside her, pleasantly smiling, but a little concerned.
Guess not.
The stranger finally responded, lighting a cigarette. Boleslava didn't approve, but her limbs were very short, and her body very round, and she couldn't ask Binky to do something about it.
But I had a dream where I met you and Binky. It was realistic enough that it felt like I might not wake up. Maybe I'm psychic or something. Could be. I think you're just a nice person, though. Maybe we can try to find Binky.
Boleslava wasn't especially good at being forceful, because she didn't really like to tell people what to do. But Binky got hurt feelings very easily, and she was worried about what he might do after everything that had happened to the two of them. She could feel a gentle, if slightly calloused, hand on her head, and looked up to see the stranger coughing, and a little distant-eyed, but smiling, all the same.
I was thinking pretty much the same thing. Any chance you know where the big guy was headed? We were going to go to a place called Necessity, which is supposed to be really nice. But, the season of storms came early and soon this year, and we weren't able to build a proper shelter.
The stranger chomped on her cigarette, which simply wobbled pathetically because it was a cheap cigarette and not a cigar.
That sucks. Ugh, I could have been really helpful then. You don't look very athletic.
Boleslava cautiously opined. The stranger nodded and chuckled.
True, but it's one of those things where you wish you could have helped, even though you weren't there, and even if you couldn't really. Maybe it's selfish. I dunno,
The familiar, pleasant peach haze as Boleslava carefully trimmed the self-doubt around the stranger's thought was a bomb better than the cigarette. The stranger sighed languidly, and closed her eyes for a moment.
Missed that. A lot. Even if it was just a dream. Hey, do you smell that?
Up ahead, the scent of something deep-fried and laden in fats and oils wafted tantalizingly near. Grasping Boleslava up, the stranger dashed along the sand towards it, not because she was hungry, but because.
Hey! You there! Hey-oh!
Flapping her arms wildly and yelling as loud as she could while still juggling the dying cigarette, the stranger tried to be seen by the guy manning the stall, who stared at her impassionately before blinking, adjusting his glasses, and waving back. As the stranger arrived, panting and out of breath, but having of course lowered Boleslava to the ground carefully, first, she grinned wolfishly.
Paul? Right? I owed you some money. Can't remember how much. Good to see you.
He simply stared at the two of them, trying desperately to hide the expression of someone who remembers you and doesn't necessarily dislike you, but cannot for the life of themselves remember your name. Finally, Paul stopped grinning embarrassedly and just rolled with it.
Yeah, good to see you too. I'm sorry, I don't think we interacted that much outside of work. I was pretty hammered the night they had told me I had won. Still, it's pretty weird to see someone else from corporate over here. Is it all gone out home? Yeah. It's all gone.
The two were silent for some time, then the stranger laughed and slapped her knee, wincing at where it was itchy from sand and too many tumbles.
Look, don't worry about the name thing. We'd never hung out too much, and let's bet honest, I wouldn't remember me either. Especially not with all the falls I've been having recently. But this is Boleslava. Hi.
Boleslava chirped, having already helped herself to some of the cucumber soda cunningly hidden behind the stall proper. And because it was cucumber soda, neither Paul nor the stranger minded.
Hey, how do you do? Well, it's nice to meet the two of you, Miss and slightly smaller and pinker Miss. I'd offer you some food and refreshments, but I'm actually closing up shop. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking of leaving this place. Have you ever just gotten a bad vibe? The kind of vibe that sinks into your skin and says to you, Paul, this is a bad location, and location is key. Run. Because that's the kind of vibe I'm getting, right now. Sounds rough.
The stranger replied empathically.
It is, let me tell you. But never fear. I'm setting up shop again somewhere else. Probably nearer a settlement, hopefully one with some kind of standing militia or something. I guess it's another part of that hunch.
Paul laughed and stared into the distance, long after his laughter had died down.
Look, we're looking for a friend, and though I'm hella tough, I don't honestly think I could protect Boleslava if your intuition is right. Would you mind if we tagged along for a bit, if that's okay with Boleslava?
The stranger asked cautiously, smiling, but carefully watching Paul's expression. It was neutral and surprised, but friendly enough.
Sure, if your strangely pink sister or whatever doesn't mind. I don't. As long as we keep looking for Binky, and maybe try to stop whatever is coming that's making you feel sad.
The comment was directed at Paul, who laughed nervously.
Nothing's making me feel sad. I just have a feeling, is all. But thanks for the concern. So, help me close up shop.
The three, or really two, though Boleslava was excellent at rolling around in the sand and making time seem to go faster, packed up the shop soon enough, and began to set out against the wilderness, just as the first buds began to grow through the sand at an unnaturally fast rate. Floral explosions of petals in shades of decadent orange and bright fuchsia lit up a path for them to follow that led nowhere in particular, and the stranger felt for a minute that she might have made the right choice, despite it all. That didn't change even as the path led them within sight of the motionless corpse of Isilthwist the serpent, though the gnawing sorrow she felt was quickly eased by Boleslava. What wasn't erased was the strange sight of someone kneeling near the serpent, old, so old as to be skeletal, or perhaps even mostly bone. The figure was clearly saying something, but was so far away as for it to be impossible to hear what, precisely, they had said. As their words faded on the wind, the figure turned to stare at the three with hollow eyes, and with a look of acknowledgement disappeared from sight. The stranger felt oddly comforted by this even though the look of the distant figure had felt like needles against her spine. If nothing else, she hadn't been the only one to mourn Isilthwist, and that alone was a comfort. Chapter End.